Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Music Podcast. Once again, my return subscribers, thank you so much. I can't do this without you. I so appreciate you. Today, my special guest is Rob Traynor. Rob is a vocalist and guitarist for Blackwater Rising. Blackwater Rising, a hard rock metal band that is often tagged as stoner rock due to the sledgehammer riffing and the brooding bottom end. It is brooding, too. They have shared stages with the likes of bands like Hellyeah, King's X, Monster Magnet, Ace Frehley, and many others. Blackwater Rising will release their fourth album called The Edge tomorrow, August 15th, for Capital T Productions. It's got to be exciting, man. Rob, it's great to have you.
Thanks. Yeah, good to be here. Good to be here. Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, it's cool. It's always fun to release something, you know, and then get feedback. So that's really what it's all about, getting it out there and then getting the feedback.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was telling you earlier, I get a lot of stuff across my desk, and I can't cover it all, but man, one listen is all it took. I put this thing on and it just exploded out of the speaker, man. It was like, wow, it just punched me right in the gut, and in a good way, for sure.
Pushed.
Really, really solid, really groove heavy, just a massive blow. It's a fist for sure. I hear that Sabbath bottom end and that bombast. I hear stoner elements, the COC stuff, corrosion conformity, even a little Faith No More type thing going on, melodic heaviness like the King's X stuff, phenomenal band there. When I say all of that, am I on target? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, listen, I don't make any, I wear my inspirations, on my sleeves. I don't hide anything. I'm a big fan of every band you just mentioned, so it's going to come through me, when I sit down and write a riff or something. I just, the music I record is just, I'll sit down with a guitar and just play a riff and have a good time and come up with melody and stuff. And then just becomes a song, and that's it, and trying to do, setting my sights on it. I got to do something interesting or something like, I don't know. I just playing the music that I enjoy, So.
I love it, man. I love it. And I enjoy for sure. It comes across my desk, and before I even hear it, I see it. Let's talk a little bit about the album art. Done by Mirkow Gastow. It might be butchering that name. Done covers by Pentagram, Zach Sabbath, some other stoner stuff. It's a great cover. I love it. How involved were you in the design or the choice of artist or anything like that?
I really wasn't really that involved. It was actually Mike, my drummer. He was more involved with the on the graphic end of things. But we had an idea, of how we wanted it to look, and first the object was we had to decide on what we were going to title the album. So you go through, your list of songs you're going to put on there and just throw them around. Hey, this might sound cool for an album, an album title. And we came up, decided on The Edge. And so that's when the imagery came into it, I picture some guy standing there and, but we gave it to the artist, and he came up, he rendered some different ideas. And when we saw that one, we were like, yeah, that's cool. It's like, it's, just like a typical like hard rock metal type of cover, but it's got like a classic feel to it, Yeah. It just has a vibe to it, it almost looks kind of 70s, which is what we wanted it to look like. So it fit the vibe of what we were going for with the music and everything. So I thought it it was cool, So we actually had somebody that wrote on Facebook. Somebody left a comment. They were like, "Why all the skulls? Why the skulls?" And it wrote back, because they're cool and they remind us of our mortality. But I just thought it was funny because it's just, it's metal. It's it's like
totally
gotta have a skull.
Absolutely, man. We all love skulls. I mean, it's like fire. Who doesn't like fire? I mean,
it would stick there. Just nothing else ever works. A skull does for some.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? It reminded me of. I'm a Chicago kid, so local band for us was Trouble, and
Yeah.
yeah, they had the same kind of thing where you say it looks 70s, or it looks nostalgic, it looks older, like a classic, and they did a lot of that same thing, and hence they're a stoner band kind of thing, same kind of thing. It's great. What was that?
They were one of the originals. I mean, they were like, I mean, they really were like Sabbath, but it was just like, but they made it their own, you know.
Yeah.
So heavy, so cool. They were a great band.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to come in the beginning here in Chicagoland, and see them a lot in the clubs, and it was what a band they were. Really great live too. So, uh, you mentioned giving it to the artist. Did you give him the song to work off the image?
Mike did, like I said, Mike really, he's the one who really worked on all of that stuff with but
But the song was done.
down to his, I mean, he rendered some ideas, and and we kind of guided him a little bit, but he came up with the majority of putting it together, and and then when we saw the cover, we were just like, this is cool, we can go. It just had that feel to it, something that you would have picked up from off of Metal Blade or something back in like like 85 or 86,
Yep.
but
Absolutely.
but then going for that stoner type of the 70s vibe at the same time.
Totally, and I mean, you achieved it in massive fashion. Like I say, that's totally where I was as soon as I saw it. So, not hearing it, that used to be very important. I used to shop like that. I'd go to the record store. I'd go look at the records, and album titles and things like that.
Before we got this artwork from him, he had presented us with some other work, and it just looked like something like if you would have seen it, it was incredible work. It was highly detailed. It was looked great. It was a skull, but it looked like it was like a Terminator type of skull, but it looked like, just the look of it looked like something that you would have expected to hear Meshuggah.
Okay.
So I was just like, a Fear Factory, something like that. I was just like, so we knew we felt like this like represent, because you could run into that problem where if you kind of misrepresent with the artwork, people might be disappointed if they're not familiar with the music. But nowadays it's like virtually impossible to not be familiar with the music before you purchase something.
Yeah.
Back in the day when you went to the record stores and you never, there was no internet, and you were on records, you saw a cool album cover, you're like, what, let me check these guys out.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of fun, actually. Maybe a picture of the. What was that? We got a delay.
You didn't know what you were going to get sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah. I'd look at the band, and if they looked kind of the part, of what I like to listen to, then, the song titles, like I say, and the artwork, that all had played into buying the record. And then you heard the music.
Right.
That is but we get the music here, and that's it's a great thing, really. And the artwork fits it perfectly. You guys are playing that whole back in the day thing, and I appreciate it for sure. What's the writing process for the band? Do you write everything? Is there a collaboration? How's it work for you?
Well, I'll, like I said, I mean, I have a home studio. This is my little deal. I use like Logic. I used to use Pro Tools. A lot of it, the majority is in the box. But I have a good friend who actually doesn't live far from me here. My buddy Jason. He's got a really nice studio in his basement, and it's got a lot of room. So he's a drummer, and he's got an excellent room for recording drums. So we record the drums there, and then I bring the tracks back here and lay everything else down. So I do my vocals in here, and the guitars, and we lay down the bass, all of that stuff, mix, and so everything just pretty much takes place in this studio. But as for my process, it's just like I said, I'll just sit down and just pick up a guitar, and just come up with riffs. That's usually where, it depends on what I'm vibing, but I just come up with a riff, and then the riff will trigger a vocal melody or something. And then, then it just kind of builds. The songs build themselves after that. It just kind of comes, and, you flesh out the whole process, hit record on the phone now, to try to save it. I have like tons and tons of ideas, and some ideas flesh out, some ideas don't, when you sit down, sometimes there'll be something that triggers it and just keep it going. And before you know it, I'm working in here and I'll lay down a whole song. But, and then what I'll do is, I'll bring it down to the guys, play for them. Mm-hmm. And if everybody likes it and everybody's into it, then it goes. If one guy is like, then it gets canned. I just chuck it to the side. Man. But I write a lot of, I do a lot of writing. Although over the past 5 years has been a little slow, because I actually hit a little bit of a writer's block, and I was kind of just involved in a lot of other things. But knock on wood, I've since come out of it.
Yeah.
A lot of writing again. So the next album is right around the corner.
Man, that's great news. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because this is the first album since 2017's Electrified. So in the past, you've had a 3-year gap and a 4-year gap. Then you have this, 8-year gap. It's so a little writer's block. You're back in large fashion, brother.
Going on, and then after COVID, it was just like a lot of the live scene dried up. There was really a lot of bars closed, a lot of clubs closed. It was already hard to get gigs and to get people to come out. I mean, we'll play a show locally. I mean, with the internet nowadays, it's like we have a broad reach, so you could reach the whole world, and we do actually have a lot of fans. I mean, it's not, there's hundreds of thousands of people that are listening to the music, and it's great, it's awesome. But but there's not hundreds of thousands of people like in the Northeast, or you know what I'm saying? Right. So we're spread out throughout the world now. So it's like when you're playing clubs, it's difficult to really get a lot of people to come out. And so I mean, you're already contending with that, and that's what a lot of bands are going through. And it's just touring in general is extremely expensive, so it's tough to just get it all out there and play. So it kind of just like put a damper on things, and it was just like it doesn't inspire you to really want to write, and
right.
And so that's kind of like where my head was at with that. But then I came out of it, and I started writing again, just because, quite frankly, I love writing. I love the recording process, and the writing process is as much fun to me as getting together with the guys and playing together live. It's just like, or just jamming in the studio. To me, I have just as much fun. So I just gravitate to it, regardless of, even before I gravitated to it, regardless of even if anybody would hear it. It would just be a couple of friends I would just play music for, and they sound really cool, Rob, you got to get this out there, type of thing. But
yeah, it's great, man. I love it.
All of that. I tell people that all the time. It's like, this is the type of thing, especially in this day and age, you got to do it just because you love doing it,
Yeah.
You make a lot of money doing it nowadays, that's for sure.
Nope. I had a guy that I work with. He said something about making money doing what I do, and with interviews and publications and things like that. And then we went on to bands, and I'm like, it's hard for any band really, unless you're Metallica or something and you're playing huge arenas, selling lots of merch and all that, to make any money. Bands playing even 1,000-seat theaters are, they're breaking even between their crew and the bus, and the time on the road is a killer. So I said it's the artist, it's the sacrifice we make to do what we love. That's what it is.
Yep. Yeah. Anything else after that is just icing on the
Yeah. But
the good thing is, though, that this band, it self-sustains. So we're able to keep it going. It'll pay for rehearsals. It'll pay for, anything we need to do, so it's, but we're not about to jump on, buy onto any like $20,000, $50,000 buy on tours.
Right.
That ain't happening. But that label would come into play. But then you owe label. Then you're not making it because the label owns they own you, and you could also get shelved, which I've seen happened to me. So it's like so you do. I'd rather just be like the mom and pop store, quite honestly. Do it low level. Gig locally. If we get on some kind of tour, awesome. That's where the head that we're at.
Yeah, that's great, man. It's what you're doing is fantastic, and it's going to be appreciated, even if it's by that exclusive small niche crowd. And that's it's so rewarding, man. I love seeing it as a fan. To go and see those same people that I see at the last show. They love this band. They love this music, and they go after it. You'll get that for sure. Piston Driven. I go on to Spotify. I want to get familiar with the band. I see Electrified up there. I see that the new one's going to be up there. The only one I don't see is the second album, Piston Driven.
Asked about this from other people too, and what actually is we go through our digital distribution is through TuneCore. That's how I digitally distribute the music. If anybody's not familiar with what that is, it's just a distributor that sends it out to like Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, or YouTube Video, or anywhere that plays audio, Apple, iTunes, all of that stuff. But I originally had Piston Driven was automatically uploaded to Spotify, and at the time, that's when that whole streaming thing was really starting. It was around that time. There was already streaming, but it was really starting to. It was making fun music. They got MP3s. You downloaded them. You listen to some streaming, but the streaming wasn't as good because the quality and the speed of the connections wasn't as it is now. Obviously, now it's like everything sounds. So, but when that happened, I was getting reading all kinds of articles that were warning about what Spotify is going to become, and what streaming services would become, and how artists were going to get screwed. And so I opted to have it removed, Piston Driven, from Spotify. I was like, I'm not getting this shit, like an idiot. Mm-hmm. Came to my senses about everything, and I said, you know what? This is what the future is. You got no choice. You got to either evolve and to meet it, or go the way of the dinosaur, basically. Right. So I had the rest of the catalog of the band's music up there, but Spotify removed as per request from TuneCore, Piston Driven, and so when I went to have it put back up, they didn't put it back up for some reason. I went through TuneCore a couple times, and we tried to re-upload. So I think there's something going on where it's not. I think maybe it's some kind of glitch, or maybe something that's in the programming that's not letting it get uploaded now because it was removed. So I'm going to find a way around that. Maybe put it up as Piston Driven Spotify edition and re-upload the album, and now it'll be a different, So that's what I'm looking into that. So I'm going to approach it from that angle. So it'll be the Piston Driven Spotify album.
Yeah. Change the name of the album. Right. The whole different thing. Yeah. Very cool.
So we'll see. But kind of focus on this album right now.
Absolutely. Do you prefer to do things independently? I noticed, that album in particular is on Metalville, which I deal with Metalville quite often. Great label, German label. I noticed you've been with Pavement. Got friends at Pavement. Now you're independent. You prefer it that way, right? I mean, is it?
When the first album came out, we did have some label offers, and we worked with a friend who had a label called Giddy Up Records, and we did a little, but the contracts that we worked out weren't really like real, It came a point where we did get some offers that could look like they could start to go in the direction of a nice deal, but it was also at the time where the record industry was already starting to tank. What, you know, they weren't offering deals like they offered back when.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had friends that had Mike was in a band that got, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars was a deal, and that back then you got a $250,000 record deal. That was like your average deal. Now,
Right.
lucky if you can get 50,000 out of a label, and that would be considered a good deal. And as for little independent labels, they don't have much money at all. I mean,
Right.
you know, basically what they're offering you is that they'll work your album for
Right.
percentage, you know, like they have the crew to work your album, which is, and then in that case, what I had decided to do, knowing that that was the case, and I saw that a couple of my songs, "Brother Go On" was on there, was really getting, there was an organic thing happening, and I could see that there was an organic thing happening. So I didn't want to sign up with a label because I've had record deals in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew what could happen, you know, and I had an album that was basically shelved, and you know, so it was like I just, you know, to me it was these labels for what they were offering anyway, you know, it was like I didn't feel it was really worth it, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, we weren't that money hungry. It would have helped to have some kind of push behind the band, but you just knew things weren't going in that direction, and you give up a lot when you sign a deal with a label. So we just decided, you know what, we've got enough knowledge as guys that have been doing this already for years, that have had record deals, that have done, you know, we have an idea of what needs. So we went out, we hired like a marketing company, like a Concrete Marketing, or
Mm-hmm.
we worked with that. When we worked with Pavement, we weren't like signed to Pavement. We just basically did a deal with them where we would use their marketing department and whatnot to help to promote the album. It was kind of like, you know, we had to make an investment, and we worked together, and there was, you know, a division of royalty, you know, anything that would have came in. But we had a couple of we had a couple other deals here and there, but you know, nothing that was like, you know, they're really like kind of like digital, like a piece of this, a piece of that.
Right.
Like I said, it's like we've just decided that in this day and age, I think the best way to do it really is to do it on your own, and especially if you really feel like, you know, you have something that you see can be organic and that could, you know, I mean, to this day, it's already been, I don't know, maybe 12 years since Brother Go On came out, right?
Yeah.
And it's still doing great on we're closing on 10 million streams.
That's great, man.
Yeah, 10 million on just streaming on the internet, and it's still going.
Yeah.
So that's also a positive about that, because people discover you slowly over time.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, as compared to just some big label pushing you out there and everybody knows about you and you just go out, you know, it's like,
right,
you stick or you just flop, you know, it's like,
yeah,
who knows what, you know. I think what we're doing is we've kind of done a little bit of like, in a sense, an internet grassroots type of thing.
Yeah.
You know? And we've done some touring in the States, but nothing like major, you know, so we can, you know.
Yep. It's tough, man. There's a lot of bands out there, and there's a lot of good bands out there, to be honest. You know, so you know, the competition's stiff, but you know, it's a time over time thing for sure. You got to stick to it and do what you do, man, and be genuine. And then, you know, you can tell with this music, it is pure, man. No doubt about it. Yeah, I start listening to the record, I hear Slow Slide. Right away, it's that funky groove and, you know, that heavy, just really bombast, man. And it really, you know, doesn't let up too much, man. That is what you guys do. And when the music's like that, I'm kind of a music guy more than a lyric guy. So, you know, I miss the lyric thing, you know, the first couple times through. But I started to listen to the lyrics for this record, and there's a lot of stuff there. This is it's saying something. It's not corny. It's not, you know, this is well written. When you're writing, do you put more weight into the music or the lyrics? Does, you know, one come after the other?
I mean, honestly, lyrics to me, at least with me, they're secondary to the music.
Hmm.
So the big riffs. It's got to, the riff is the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
Is the riffs and the groove and just the feel of the song and the energy. That's the most important. And then, of course, melody is part of the music. So coming up with some kind of vocal lines or a vocal approach to what I'm trying to get across. But at the same time, a lot of times I'll come up with a usually like with the chorus and then I'll come up with a word or something or a phrase while I'm humming melodies, and something might sound cool. And I'm like, yeah, that might be cool. So then I come up with like a slow slide, and I say to myself, you know what, maybe, what am I imagining? Like what comes into my mind when I think about that? So it's like, slow slide, a descent, So that's what I kind of I'd start writing lyrics, sitting down and, listening to the song, and I go on the computer now and on Word and just put in the lyrics as it's going along. And I'll start to lay down tracks. Sometimes I flesh out the lyrics as I'm actually recording the song. So I won't even have lyrics to it. I have the melody, but start working on it as I'm recording it. And a lot of the songs that you're hearing there were basically, the lyrics were written as the song was being recorded. So
it's great, man.
But basically, that's it. Like they weren't really fleshed out in advance. It's like as I was recording the actual song, like I had the music for it. Sometimes, I had, some lyrics and stuff like that. But, then what I'll do is a lot of times I would lay down. When I lay down this song, it's like I guess the quote unquote demo. It's in its demo stage,
right?
Call it. But the guitars and everything you hear there are from the demo, like the demo stage.
Right.
That's all recorded. Then I'll have like Odie come over and he'll relay down the bass. He'll lay down the bass on, and Johnny will come over, lay down a guitar leader, and redo a rhythm track, and or add to what I have there already. And then I mix all of that, and there's drum programming. That's all, because it's still in the demo stage.
Right.
And it's, Mike hears it. He's living with it. He's coming up with his drums. He's playing, practicing at home. And then we go into the studio, and Mike lays down the drums, and we remove the drums that were there. And then, based on how the song feels, because I don't do a lot of like time, Mike's pretty solid. So he I'll go back and just make adjustments and redo some guitar rhythms and stuff to, because sometimes it doesn't feel right, because the initial parts may not have been recorded to those drums. So it's kind of like, it's almost like it's playing to a click track, but there's still a lot of movement going on.
Yeah.
And then, there's all the, Logic, the tools you can use in Logic and everything. Just
sure.
Yeah. But crazy. I leave mistakes in and stuff like that. I'm not into this sterilized music.
Yeah, man. It's got that live feel. It's got, you feel like you're in the room, for sure. It's cool. The lyrically, and I'm not a lyric guy. So I'm the same, man. I need the riff, I need the heavy groove, and the phrasing and everything. I don't care what the word is, but the word's got to fit the music. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my thing.
They're gonna work. They're gonna be twice as effective if the music is good.
Mm-hmm.
If the music sucks, you got the best lyrics ever. Nobody's gonna give a shit.
No, totally. But I come across You Found the Sun, and this lyric passage, man, it just, you found the sun in an old photograph of the moon. I'm the one who sees a half empty glass, and the rain couldn't come too soon. Man, that's, it's profound shit, man. It's like, it's really a great lyric, and I stopped and I was like, this is great, man. This isn't about cars and chicks and beer and skulls. You know what I mean? This is saying something. How personal do you get with the lyrics?
It's just like, when I come up with lyrics, it's not, a lot of times it's not anything that I'm it's not always personal. It can just writing, like a writer that writes a story or writes a book, can be writing from a different perspective, you know. And sometimes, like a song like that, I was writing it from a perspective of someone being, you know, clearly like an optimist and a pessimist, you know.
Yeah.
You can look at, like, you know, the old half glass is empty or half glass is full. And I was saying how I was thinking about somebody in general that I thought was very an optimistic person. That was almost kind of like, you know, like just blissfully ignorant of everything and the going on in the world, you know, and just like that. Where the person who's I guess me in that song singing about it about that person to them, saying how, you know, how I'm just naturally pessimistic, you know, like as opposed to somebody that can see, you know, just the vision between the people, you know, the way it's, you know, the dynamics.
Yeah, it's really cool, man.
Yeah, it depends. But then there'll be a song that I write that'll be somewhat political, you know, but not necessarily, you know, choosing any kind of side, just writing about what's going on in the world, you know, social, you know, society and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, and well, you know, two, You Found the Sun. I just love the rain couldn't come too soon. You know, that's a great way to say, you know, to fill that glass and to become more positive. You know, it's really a poetic, deep way of saying that, and I just love that.
You see that, but that's why I write like that, so that people can take and create their own image in their mind of what it is. You know, that's how I go about when I write lyrics. Like, my mind, it could go one of two ways with a lyric like that, because it could just be somebody that could say, and the rain couldn't come too soon, having absolutely nothing to do with that glass, but have to do with just being a miserable bastard.
Yeah.
Where you picture in your mind the glass getting half full. That's kind of cool, you know. So it's like, you know, that's when you leave that open for. That's what I like to do with my lyrics. I like to leave it open so that people could create their own image. Because I hear from people all the time, and they ask me about what this song's about or what that song's about. And I ask them, well, what do you think it's about? And they tell me what it's about. I'm like, what is it about?
There you go. That's great, man. And it makes the record fun, man. It makes it my own. You know, it's kind of, you know, it's that artist that puts the art out there and says, you know, it's not mine anymore. Right. It's the world's, and that's, you know, kind of what you do here, and it's really, man, it's a gift. It's a great gift, and I thank you for it. It's really cool, man. You mentioned that socio-political kind of, you know, relevance, social relevance to some of the stuff. Seeking a Shill comes to mind. You know, are you ever cautious about saying, I mean, in the world today, man, you can post a puppy and, you know, that puppy's the wrong color, or it's a fascist puppy, or, you know, whatever. But you see, you know, God only knows what you're going to stir up with anything. But, you know, you're speaking your mind here, not picking a side, like you said. But, you know, saying socially relevant stuff. Are you ever cautious about saying a little too much?
Never. Well, because I feel like, I mean, I feel like it's the truth. I'm not saying anything that's not true, not what everybody sees themselves, you know, like even a song like Brother Go On from the first album, it still holds, you know, people can use it in a lot of those lyrics still to this day, because nothing's really changed, you know. It's like, and 100 years from now, you could probably still read those lyrics and say, hey, this nothing, you know, it's the same shit. So
yeah,
how I go about it, you know, I don't really pick a side. I let people's minds decide on what they want to make out of it. To me, that has always been my favorite type of lyric when I hear a song. So that's why I write that way, you know. I don't know exactly what that would be called, but that's how I come up with my way of writing lyrics. You know, I leave it up to, you know, it's kind of like looking at a painting, and you take from it what you feel you see there. You know, not everybody sees the same things. So that's how I go about, you know, lyrics with these songs.
Yeah, It's interpretive. Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes I don't go that deep. Sometimes I'm not like looking to go deep with something. Something works, it works, and that's it. I come
Yeah.
from too, like the Van Halen school of listen, if it sounds is good, that's it.
Uh, absolutely, absolutely. There's so much on here though to take in, man. There's that Van Halen-esque kind of, just hey, it's saying, rock and roll, and then there's the other stuff, and that's what makes the journey great with this record for sure. Um, I have a big hard rock fan standing next to me, and he wants to hear Blackwater Rising. What should be the first thing he listens to?
No, I would say Brother Go On, off the first album. Just listen, I tell people listen to the first album all the time. I mean, yeah, there's other songs, but I would say that Brother Go On would probably be the song because that pretty much sums up the sound. I don't think we've changed much since then. I mean, there's some songs have different vibes, but you got the big riff and,
Yeah.
melodies and, it's no frills riff rock. That's it. That's the way I like to describe it. No frills riff rock.
Hell yeah, man. Rob, don't change, man. We don't want any change, It's like, the AC/DC thing. They've made the same album 13, 14 times. That's what we want for the 15th one. You know what I mean?
That's cool. Yeah. Well, around to do
it. Awesome, man. We mentioned touring. We talked about touring, the expense of touring. Do you have any plans of, playing maybe the East Coast a little bit?
But we're socking away. We're saving. So the streams are doing good, so we're doing good with streaming and stuff like that, so we're seeing a little bit of something that's building up over time, so hopefully we want to get it to the point, quite honestly, where we have enough money to do it, like we're expensive nowadays, and plus, let's face the facts, anything that's worthwhile doing is half the time is a buy on, so that's kind of where we're at right now. We want to try to maybe get on some kind of tour with somebody. So we're probably looking at something in the fall, right now we're going to focus on just promoting this as much as we can on the internet and getting the music out there and the videos out there so that people, to me, that's the modern equivalent of touring nowadays is having a video, and just pushing it out there, because if you can't get out to every place, at least people could see you and see, what the band's about, just watching YouTube, so we're and then using the tools that we can, and ultimate, cherry on top would be to get a decent tour and get out there. I mean, we'd love to, our biggest markets right now for streaming is the United States is #1, Canada is #2, which is cool. So that's doable. And #3, believe it or not, I was shocked, was Brazil. So yeah, like damn, I should have known. Brazil's very rock and roll, so I was like, we can always drive all the way.
A little wet, but yeah.
Yeah, but we're gonna get out there. Hopefully, do something in the States. Definitely something in the States.
Yeah.
I'll out to Europe one day too. I mean, we have discussed it when we were on Metalville. We would coming out, possibly going out to Europe, but for some reason it just didn't work out. I don't remember exactly what the reasoning was, but but it just didn't pan.
Yeah.
So maybe one day,
Yeah, you keep doing your thing, man. I'll keep putting links and
dream.
What was that?
Don't cost nothing to dream.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I love what you're doing, man. Give the band my best. I'll have all the have all the links to everything you got going on, and people can check it out. Get the album.
I'll make sure that I do a good push of it, on Facebook and everything, get it out there.
Awesome. Yeah, excellent, man. Rob, I'll talk to you next time, next album, or the tour, or whatever it might be, man. My door is always open, brother.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right. Take care, bud.
Take care.
Bye-bye.